I never expected a simple comment from a young girl to reveal a billionaire's heartbreaking past. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other day. The sun was sharp, the air crackled with excitement, and I was working my usual shift at the coffee shop. But then, she walked in. A girl, no more than 10, with messy hair and a crooked smile that melted my heart. Her eyes sparkled with innocent curiosity as she looked up at the giant in the corner, Victor Bennett, the billionaire whose face was plastered on every magazine. I held my breath, waiting to see if she would even notice him. "Are you sad?" she asked, tilting her head as she pointed at him with a sticky finger. For a moment, the entire world seemed to grind to a halt. Victor's icy demeanor flickered. His perfectly sculpted jaw tightened, and I could feel the air shift, thick with tension. Ducking behind his sunglasses, he glanced away. But the girl pressed on, her voice cutting through the silence like glass. "Why do you look sad?" Everything else blurred, the sounds of the bustling cafe dimmed. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage. How had she seen that? The glitz, the money, it was supposed to mean happiness. But here he was, the epitome of success, caught in a moment of raw vulnerability. I could see the way his hands trembled slightly, the way he clenched them against the table, as if he were holding back a storm. "Told you to leave me alone," he muttered, his voice low and gravelly, but I could hear the pain. The girl blinked, confused. She didn't understand the weight of that statement. But I did. Suddenly, the door swung open. A gust of wind swept through the cafe, carrying with it whispers of conversations about Victor's past, rumors of betrayal, a lost love, a tragedy that had shattered his world. I shivered, the hairs on my arms standing on end. Was that true? Did this man, who seemed untouchable to everyone, carry such heartache? The girl looked back to him, undeterred. "You should smile. It makes you look happy." Her innocent proclamation hung in the air, heavy as a sigh. My heart clenched for him. I didn't know him, but in that instant, I felt his loneliness like a weight pressing down on my chest. What secrets lay behind those dark eyes? What memories haunted him? As the girl turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of something so deep within Victor's gaze, something that screamed of loss and longing. My fingers trembled as I served coffee to a group of outsiders, their laughter barely touching the surface of what I felt standing there, caught between two worlds. And just like that, the moment snapped. The girl skipped out, her laughter fading into the distance, leaving behind an echo of unresolved pain. Victor sat there, a fortress of solitude, surrounded by wealth yet trapped in a curse of sorrow. What had happened to him? What heartbreak had shaped the man behind the money and power? The quiet buzz returned, but my heart raced. I could see Victor's facade cracking, his heartache the open wound that would never heal. It terrified me, yet I felt drawn to it. Who was I to pry? And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled onto something monumental. As I stole a glance back at him, his eyes caught mine. For a split second, an unheard question passed between us. My breath caught in my throat. What if this simple comment had opened the door to a story darker and more twisted than I could ever imagine? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The coffee shop buzzed with life, yet it felt as if the world had dimmed its lights around Victor and me. After the girl left, Victor's presence loomed larger than life, his turmoil cloaked in silence. He seemed so distant, like a ghost in the flesh, and I couldn't help but wonder what thoughts danced behind those heavy-lidded eyes. As I wiped down the counter with shaking hands, the weight of my curiosity gnawed at my insides. What compels a person to shield their heart so fiercely? I had seen countless faces each day, yet his was the first that felt like a haunting melody I couldn't quite place. The way he cradled a coffee cup, making it an anchor against a storm only he heard, spoke volumes. Moments stretched into eternity as I forced myself to concentrate on the orders coming in. Drip coffee for a regular, a caramel macchiato for the woman with the bright red scarf. Each transaction felt mechanical, as if I were an actor in a play, rehearsing dialogues while my heart swelled with emotions that begged for release. Finally, as the last customer shuffled out, I caught Victor's gaze again. He had removed his sunglasses, revealing eyes that shimmered with stories unsaid, layers of hurt that seemed almost too heavy to bear. Despite my resolve to give him space, a yearning for connection pulled me closer, merging our worlds in that brief, fragile moment. Would you like a refill? I managed to stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. He flinched, not expecting the question. No. So curt, yet so laden. But thank you. Can I ask what happened? The words escaped my lips before I could rein them back in. I instinctively held my breath, anxiety swirling in my stomach as I stood there, the determination sprinkled with hope that perhaps a part of him would want to share. Victor's expression hardened momentarily, then softened, just a fraction. Not here. Not with you. It was a dagger wrapped in velvet. I stepped back, the sting of rejection weaving through my chest. The fragile silence cloaked us once again. Still, I couldn't let the moment fade, I had to take the risk. I know you're hurting. And sometimes sharing that pain makes it a little lighter. You could try. He fixed me with a piercing gaze, something raw and wild smoldering beneath the surface. You think you know pain? You think that sharing it makes it go away? His words sliced through the air, a whirlwind of anger and protection. No, I replied, swallowing hard. I don't think sharing makes it disappear. But it might just help it feel less heavy. Our eyes locked, the intensity flickering between us like a live wire. It was a fragile moment, and I could feel the emotional chasm yawning beneath our feet. Just then, the bell above the door clanged, and the moment shattered. It was the regular crowd returning, laughter and chatter at odds with the solemnity of our exchange. Victor stood abruptly, grabbing his coat. I'm done here, he muttered, avoiding my gaze as he swung the door wide and vanished into the evening light. As the warmth of the cafe enveloped me once more, I felt an unexpected sadness wash over me. Despite his shortness, there was an unspoken challenge lingering in his defiance. I was determined to learn his story but terrified of the journey it might entail. Each encounter seemed to crack open more of his layers yet also pushed him further away. The next few days hung heavy in the air. I found myself counting the hours until I would see him again, searching for traces of him in the lingering scent of coffee and in the chatter of customers. Would he come back? Or was this his way of shutting the door on discomfort? Hope began to bloom, regardless of my unease. One evening, as I flipped the sign to closed, I spotted an envelope tucked beneath the door. It was thick and parchment-like, sealed with an insignia I recognized, the Bennett family crest. My pulse quickened as I knelt, curiosity and dread swirling in my chest. Opening it carefully, my heart plummeted. Inside was a handwritten note, words scrawled hastily yet elegantly. I didn't mean to scare you. Forgive me. Not the man you think I am. Meet me at the old pier tomorrow at sunset if you dare. The world narrowed down to that single thought. What had I stepped into? Was this a chance for him to share his pain or merely a warning to back away? As I grappled with uncertainty, hope and trepidation tangled inside me, igniting an urgency to confront the shadows lurking within Victor's heart. I had no idea what awaited me at the pier, but I knew one thing: I was standing now at the precipice of something bigger than both of us. The air hung thick with anticipation as I arrived at the old pier, the scarlet hues of the sunset pouring over the water, casting the world in shades of wonder and trepidation. Each step echoed in my mind, the wooden boards creaking beneath me as if voicing their skepticism about what awaited. I could almost hear the waves whispering secrets of those who had tread the same path before me. The note had ignited flames of both fear and hope, a duality that churned in my chest. What did he mean? What kind of man isn't who he seems? I had grappled with these thoughts all day, unable to focus on anything else, even as the cafe bustled with life. My heart raced at the thought of meeting Victor again. The way his presence lured me in like a moth to a flame. Despite the danger, the pier stood empty, but the beauty of the sunset lured me into its embrace. I drew in a shaky breath, willing the air to still my thoughts. Yet, as I turned to lean against the weathered railing, I spotted him emerging from the shadows, a silhouette against the fiery backdrop, a ghost made flesh. Victor. The name slipped from my lips, a combination of relief and apprehension. He rocked on his heels, a distance still between us that felt almost tangible. The emotions brimming in his gaze were haunting yet familiar, and I fought to keep my own emotions in check. That I didn't think you'd come, he admitted, his voice low and gruff, burdened yet tinged with an unexpected vulnerability. Such raw honesty always struck me as courageous, especially among the facades everyone wore. I had to, I replied, equal parts defiance and warmth. I need to understand you. Those words hung in the air between us, heavy yet hopeful. He stepped closer, the tension shifting in the space surrounding us. Understanding me is dangerous. I told you I know. You're not the man I think you are. But what if there's more to your story than you believe? What if I hesitated, searching for the right words? What if sharing makes it lighter? Like I said, Victor fixed me with a loca gaze that suggested he was wrestling with something deep inside. You don't get it, he murmured, barely audible over the sound of the waves crashing below. People like me, we have walls for a reason. This life, it's hollow. It eats you alive, and there's no way back once it does. The pain in his words was palpable, raw enough to cut through the fading light. That I don't care about walls. I care about the person behind them, I shot back, determination threading my voice. I could see his defenses crumbling beneath the weight of uncertainty, and I refused to back down. You don't have to fight this alone. Victor looked as if he stood on the edge of an emotional cliff, his heavy gaze contemplating the ocean below. It's not just me, you understand. There are losses woven into the fabric of my life. Heartbreak that rips through everything. I can't risk dragging someone down. Is that what you think I'm doing? I interjected, the sting of frustration igniting my thoughts. I don't want to be saved, I just want to know you. We all carry some weight, Victor. It's how we deal with it that matters. For a moment, silence enveloped us, punctuated only by the rhythmic pulse of the waves. Victor opened his mouth as if to protest, but nothing came out. The ghost of a smile flickered on his lips, and I felt the stirrings of hope, that maybe he was beginning to consider my words, to allow me a glimpse into his heart. But then, without warning, a piercing scream shattered the serenity of the sunset, pulling our attention to the water below. A figure was splashing frantically, struggling against the strong current. My heart seized in my chest as I processed what was happening. Call for help. I shouted to Victor as I rushed to the edge of the pier, adrenaline propelling me forward. Before he could react, I took off my shoes and jumped into the water. The chill was shocking as it enveloped me, but fear fueled my swim. The frantic arms of a young girl flailed in the distance. She was scared and tired. I could feel an urgency rushing through me, pushing me toward her despite the cold grasping at my limbs. Hold on. I yelled as I swam closer, the distance feeling like an eternity. The sun was setting, its final glow fading behind the horizon, but its rays lingered, casting a dim light over the chaos unfolding. I didn't know what I was capable of, what kind of danger awaited me, but I couldn't abandon her. I reached out, grasping her arm just as she began to go under. I've got you. Just hold on. With every ounce of strength, I pulled her closer, but the current was merciless, threatening to sweep us both away. Just as I felt my energy waning, a strong hand gripped my wrist, pulling me back toward the safety of the pier. It was Victor, his face etched with determination. Together, We hoisted the girl back to the surface, clinging to each other until the weight of the world lightened slightly. With a final surge, we managed to pull her to the edge of the pier, gasping for breath. I looked up at Victor, adrenaline coursing through us both, our eyes locking amidst the chaos. In the aftermath of the struggle, panic turned to concern as we pulled the girl from the water. She coughed, choking on the salt water. Victor stayed close, his presence grounding me even as the enormity of the moment began to settle. Had seen me risk it all, and now, what would that mean for the walls had built around his heart? As the sirens wailed in the distance, a new wave of uncertainty washed over me. Would this moment bring us closer, or deepen the chasm between our lives? I hadn't fully grasped the implications of Victor's past or who he truly was, but as I looked into his eyes, I could sense a delicate shift, a possibility brewing within the shadows. Yet just when I thought we might finally connect, the sirens drew closer, a stark reminder of the fragility of life. The girl might be saved, but our uncertain journey was merely beginning. And whatever lay ahead could tear us apart just as easily as it could bind us closer together. The distant wail of the sirens faded for a moment as I focused on the girl, trembling and scared but alive. This was supposed to be a moment of relief, yet a weight settled over me, thickening the air between me and Victor as we exchanged glances filled with unshed emotions. The avenue for connection opened wider, but uncertainty ebbed at the edges. The girl, her eyes wide and bewildered, glanced back at us, her innocence stark against the turmoil. "You saved me," she whispered, as if trying to grasp the reality of her rescue. The look in her eyes was pure gratitude, and something within me cracked open just a little more. Victor knelt beside her, concern palpable in his posture. "What's your name?" he asked gently, grounding himself in the now, as if the girl were a thread binding us momentarily. "Lily," she responded, her voice trembling as she looked at him and then at me. "I thought I was going to drown." Her words hung there, aching, as the truth of them rippled through my heart. "That's what we're here for." "To help," I said, my voice steadier as I reached out to take her cold little hand in mine. "You're safe now, Lily. Just hold on tight." Still, the unspoken weight loomed larger than anything we could face. I felt Victor's gaze on me, a mix of admiration and fear flickering in those dark depths. It ignited a question in my mind, one I dared not voice. Was this the moment where the facade of strength, of control, would start to fracture under the light of vulnerability? As the sounds of approaching footsteps indicated the arrival of help, Victor stood and looked at me, concern etched on his face. "You shouldn't have jumped in. It was reckless that it was necessary," I shot back, frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "You can't just stand there and watch someone drown. What if it was someone you loved?" The heat of the moment lingered, a defiance that felt electric. The sirens blared, pulling the focus away from us, but I could feel Victor's turmoil even as he spoke to the paramedics who had finally reached the pier. "She's shivering, but responsive," he relayed, his tone steady despite the storm roiling within. Lily's trust in us, their life sustained by our actions, brought a flicker of hope. Yet, as I caught Victor's eye again, something in his expression shifted. It was like a window had cracked open, revealing moments from his past, a sudden surge of memories that morphed fear into a deeper longing. "Whatever you're thinking, just know it's okay to talk," I said softly, but the words barely reached past the barrier he maintained. I sensed the turmoil behind his eyes, a storm of memories clashing against the walls he'd built. As the paramedic knelt beside us, checking Lily's vitals, I felt Victor's pulse quickening beside me. "We can't stay here," he said, a sudden urgency in his voice. "We need to get her warm and secure." I opened my mouth to protest, to urge him to confront whatever it was that haunted him, but he was already moving with determined strides, guiding Lily toward the ambulance. My heart raced, torn between the need to support him and the desire to dive deeper into the truths lurking in the shadows of his heart. The weight of his battered past felt heavier as I trailed behind, an ache simmering at the back of my throat. I glanced back at the water, where chaos had transformed into something life-affirming, yet for Victor, it seemed a different story altogether. The water here was alive with darkness. Once inside the ambulance, Lily was wrapped in thermal blankets, but her gratitude and the simple sweetness of her innocence felt like a beacon cutting through the haze of uncertainty around me. "Can I sit with her?" I asked the paramedic, who nodded with a kind smile. As the doors closed and the engine started, I leaned close to Lily. "You're so brave," I whispered, desperate to build her confidence. She smiled faintly but didn't respond, exhaustion closing in. When I looked up, I found Victor standing at the entrance of the ambulance, his silhouette a sharp contrast to the urgency of the situation, the chaos inside me mirroring the turmoil outside. Yet there was a flicker of something more profound in his eyes, a question. "Perhaps, Victor," I started, but he waved a hand, running it through his hair, frustration coloring his features. "Not here," he muttered, glancing around as if the walls had ears. "What do you mean?" My heart sank, feeling the walls stiffen once more. "I can't do this right now. Not here, not like this." His voice was tight, almost trembling, and I could see that something unspeakable was just beneath the surface. But then, just as I was about to beg him to stay, a radiant light flickered in the ambulance, a sign of hope illuminate an unknown connection, a bridge ready to be crossed. The paramedic smiled once more, and even Lily turned to give Victor an encouraging smile, pulling at the corners of her lips. "See? You helped save me." She looked between us, eyes shining not just with gratitude, but with the innocence of a child who believes that love and kindness can resolve even the most complex situations. "You're heroes." In that moment, the weight of Victor's fears collided with Lily's unwavering faith. We both froze as she uttered those simple words. Her voice echoed within the tightness of our shared moment, calling forth the chasm of his past, the history he carried. Victor's eyes widened slightly, a flurry of emotions racking through him, weaving between despair and something approaching hopefulness. I could see he was caught again on that emotional edge, and I held my breath, knowing this could ignite a firestorm or unravel it all. A moment later, the ambulance's sirens blared to life, propelling us into a new world of uncertainty. I reached for Victor's hand instinctively, just as the wheels began to roll towards the hospital. My heart raced, knowing that the next turn we took could lead to either a path of understanding or a point of no return. As the sirens echoed in the distance, the question hung thick in the air: could we bridge the divide created by his past, or would the weight of what he had endured pull us apart forever? The hum of the ambulance pulsed like a second heartbeat, a life force guiding us through the haze. The moment stretched, suffocating yet poignant, as we careened into the uncertainties of the next chapter. I could feel Victor's tension radiating, a tight string ready to snap under pressure. Lily, bundled in warmth and innocence, watched us with wide, trusting eyes, the innocent bridge between our chaotic emotional landscape. "Do you have any family nearby?" the paramedic asked, breaking the silence. His voice sounded muffled, a distant echo, as if the gravity of our situation had transported us somewhere beyond the present. "Just my mom," Lily replied, her voice so soft it almost broke. "She said I could stay near the water, but I didn't listen." A pang struck my heart at her words. There was a kind of unresolved sorrow wrapped in her innocence, the weight of unguarded trust threading between us. I glanced at Victor, who was listening intently, a mix of empathy and pain flickering across his features as he absorbed the child's fragile openness. "Lily," I murmured, hoping to draw her mind away from uncertainty. "What do you like to do? What are your favorite things?" She pondered for a moment, the spark of hope rekindling in my chest. "I love painting. And I like baking cookies with my mom," she said, a small smile breaking through the concern etched on her brow. "That sounds wonderful. What kind of cookies?" I leaned closer, feeling the warmth of her spirit echo through the cool air wrapped around us. "Chocolate chip." She beamed, and in that fleeting moment, the atmosphere lightened, pushing back shadows that had begun creeping in. But my gaze flicked to Victor, and I saw the battle within him raging. His body was rigid, and I could almost feel the wind of his memories resounding like a distant storm. That's when I decided not just to capture Lily's light, but to illuminate the corners shadowed in Victor's heart. "Victor, you were really doing initial assessments on Lily, but unfairly neglecting yourself," I said, feigning ignorance to push him gently. "What about you? What do you love to do?" He met my eyes briefly, surprise flicking through his dark gaze, and I could see the walls constructed over years of experience. "It's not about me," he replied, the words falling flat, making no effort to erase the weight pressing down on him. "Right now, it is," I pressed, keeping my voice steady despite my quaking insides. "You're here. You're part of this moment. Just like Lily. Talk to us. What's hiding behind your walls?" He swallowed hard, the motion visible in his throat. The air between us thickened with a silence that seemed to stretch for an eternity. The driver glanced back at us, but his eyes flickered elsewhere as he focused on the road ahead, allowing the moment of stillness to linger. Then, unexpectedly, Victor's gaze fell to Lily, the warm glow from the overhead lights reflecting in his depth. "Lily, do you know the story of the Cookie Man?" The question surged forth, surprisingly strong and unguarded. "No," she answered, her innocence hovering close, inviting even. "It's a tale about someone who bakes cookies for children in need, bringing warmth into their lives and helping them feel loved. He lost a lot in his lifetime but vowed to spread joy instead," he said, and even as a tear skimmed the edge of his eye, the story softened, giving brightness to our darkened surroundings. "That sounds like a nice man," Lily replied, her tiny hand clutching mine, her warmth seeping through any defenses that still lingered in the air. "It is," Victor agreed, his voice trembling slightly. "And sometimes, no matter how deep the sorrow goes, it's the moments of kindness that rescue us from ourselves." I watched as a glimmer of understanding dawned on her face, the innocence around her not understanding just how far removed the Cookie Man truly was from the true storm raging in Victor's heart. Her simple belief seemed to settle deeper into him, wrapping around the threads of fear suffusing him. After a brief silence, a certainty flickered across his face as he turned to me. "Maybe we need to accept the weight of our pasts. Without it, we want no light." Those words dripped into the quiet space around us, lingering like an unanswered prayer. I felt a surge build, the sharp realization that Victor stood at the brink of something immense, caught between a longing to open up and the haunting shadows ready to reclaim him. As the ambulance slowed, my heart danced with hopefulness and fear. I believed in threadbare connections that had the power to weave fragmented souls together. But I also sensed how fragile this moment was. Just as the doors swung open, displacing the intimate atmosphere within the cab, a paramedic leaned in, his voice cheerful and oblivious to the weight in our hearts. "Okay, we're here. Let's make sure Lily gets the care she needs." Victor's focus shifted to Lily, visually distanced from me as his protective instincts kicked in. I knew I had to seize this fleeting chance before the moment was lost, so I squeezed his hand one last time, grounding him in that flicker of connection in the face of adversity. As we climbed out, I glanced behind us, catching a glimpse of the flickering lights and hearing the distant wail of sirens echoing. The world outside had returned to chaos, but I felt the palpable connection between us pulse in time with a fragile hope. Lily was speaking to the paramedics, her spirit shining brightly through the turmoil, yet inside, I felt Victor retreating once again, caught amid a dance of storm and light. I took a step toward him, ready to bridge the distance, but in the chaos of people swarming around us, his gaze caught something over my shoulder. "What is it, Victor?" I asked, my voice caught between worry and the urgency of revelation. His face had drained of color, far too familiar with the shadows creeping toward him, a mixture of hope and dread playing across his features. What if the Cookie Man is real? What if the legends hiding trauma are all hidden in plain sight? In that moment, the world unfurled, promises whispering into the folds of uncertainty, spinning crescendos of revelation that could unravel the very fabric of everything we understood. I felt my heart stop, racing toward an unknown destination where the truth could either bind us in understanding or fracture what fragile love we had just begun to explore. "Are you saying?" My voice trailed off, incomplete, an unheld breath hovering between us, pregnant with potential and despair. But as I waited for his answer, words silenced in the face of fate, I realized that whether salvation or heartache lay ahead, we were embarking on a journey that would lead us deeper into the heart of darkness and light together. The hospital loomed ahead, stark and clinical, its sterile walls ushering us inside as I struggled to comprehend the weight of Victor's words. Each step echoed along the linoleum floor, the noise almost jarring against the fragile air of our intimate moment only moments before. I noticed Lily was already being escorted toward a treatment area, her face alight with the promise of care, while Victor lingered at the threshold, the shadows of memory wrestling for dominance on his features. There was a tension in him, a battlefield where regret clashed with longing, and I was acutely aware that beneath the surface of his thoughts lay a narrative tangled in pain. Before I could call him back, he slipped into the waiting area, a space devoid of warmth. I glanced back to Lily, who smiled uncertainly at the bustling nurses and doctors, assured in their commitment to her well-being. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the joyful essence she carried was the very balm Victor needed. If only he would let it in, Victor. I called out, urgency threading my voice as he turned away. Please, talk to me. He paused, his silhouette framed by the stark fluorescent lights. I'm fine. Just, give me a moment, he responded, the emotional distance palpable and cloying, but I wouldn't let him retreat again without making my intentions clear. No, you're not. Something's weighing on you, I pressed, stepping closer, my heart beating loudly in the cavern of my chest as I fought to bridge the ever-widening gap. You opened a door back there, and if we don't talk about it now, Lily's light might not be enough to guide us back. His eyes flickered with a depth of emotion I hadn't seen before, an aching vulnerability mixed with anger, longing, and fear. It's just I'm not the person I used to be. This world is full of, he hesitated, the words tangling in his throat. Failures. Regrets. And I've built too many walls to claim any sort of purity and connection. Let me help you break them down, I offered gently. You don't have to face this alone, Victor. I'm here. It was then, in that moment of shared uncertainty, that the flicker of hope inside me expanded. I wanted him to see that there was strength in vulnerability, a fierce beauty in embracing even the most devastating aspects of ourselves. After all, Lily had shown us that in her brief light, illuminating even the darkest corners of our lives. I just don't want to drag you into my past, he murmured, looking away, anguish knitting his brow. That we all have a past, I said softly, brushing my fingertips against his arm. Every story is fraught with heartbreak, and yours doesn't define you. It just enriches who you are. You can go from being the cookie man you mentioned, bringing warmth and libido, a man standing in his shadows, but you must choose to confront them. A moment passed, heavy with unspoken words, and I noticed a trembling in his hands, as if they were fighting to reach out for salvation. You have no idea what I've lost, he whispered, his voice catching as it plunged further into the abyss of despair. What I do know is that your heart is capable of immense love, and just like the cookie man, it can also heal, I said earnestly, determined to break through the barriers had erected around himself. Let me in, Victor. There was a lingering silence as Victor wrestled with my words, and for a heartbeat, time became suspended, allowing our emotions to coalesce into something profound. But just as the distant laughter from Lily broke the tension, a sharp noise echoed down the corridor, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Our eyes darted toward the commotion as a group of nurses rushed past, urgency sharpening their features. I turned back to Victor, racing to the precipice of panic as the darkness of uncertainty clawed at my insides. What was that? I asked, tinges of dread threading through my voice. That he glanced around, his instincts honed and ready, but just as rapidly as the chaos had begun, it seemed to dissipate, leaving us suspended in a moment thick with tension. A nurse emerged, her expression frantic. We need the security team. There's been a potential threat reported. We have to secure the area. Victor stiffened beside me, his body language shifting. I have to go. Stay here, he commanded, but even as he said it, I could see the conflict broiling in his eyes. I reached for him, but the need for immediate action propelled him forward. What if he had the chance to confront the ghosts of his past right here in this very place, while I was too busy grappling with fear? My heart raced, uncertain whether to follow or hold my ground as he stepped away from me. Victor! Be careful! I called after him, anxiety coursing through my veins. I stood there, paralyzed by the uncertainty of whether he would return or whether this moment would mark a descent into the very dark shadows he so feared. That he turned back, brief hesitation flickering across his features, and in that moment, all the light between us ignited one last time. Promise me you'll stay close to Lily, he urged, the urgency in his voice shaky yet imbued with a fierce protectiveness. Of course, I replied, instincts guiding me toward her while Victor dashed toward the unfolding chaos. As I moved toward Lily, a knot twisted in my gut, the energy in the air had shifted. It was a reminder that even in the most uncertain moments, vulnerability held the potential for storms to converge, and with it, the potential for the heart to both shatter and bloom anew. Yet as I reached Lily, the world around us buzzed with unease, and I couldn't shake the feeling that once Victor stepped into the fray, nothing would ever be the same again. The distance was closing in, threads of fate winding tighter, tufts of darkness and light blending seamlessly into a singular tapestry of uncertainty. Just as I knelt beside her, the lights flickered, plunging us into temporary darkness, and the disarray around us echoed louder, warning of an approaching tide. I drew Lily close, holding her small form against me, instinctively shielding her from the chaos consuming the hospital. "What's happening?" she asked, her innocence threatened by the tremors of fear creeping into her voice. With a fierce determination, I answered, "Well, be all right, Lily. Just stay close." But inside, I grappled with uncertainty, praying that Victor would see the moment for what it was, an undeniable invitation to claim his own story before it spiraled further into darkness. And as the light steadied and the sounds of commotion flooded back, I felt the very edges of our world shifting, holding its breath in anticipation for the revelations yet to unfold. A chaos-infused lull enveloped the hospital, and the rapid thump of my heart matched the scattered beeps of machines echoing softly in the distance. I held Lily close. Her soft hair was a comforting weight in my arms, yet the uncertainty of Victor's fate pulled at my mind like a dark shroud. "I'm scared," she whispered, her small voice barely rising above the crackle of tension in the air. Instinctively, I tightened my grip around her, the warmth of her body providing a brief counter to the cold anxiety spiraling within me. "That I know, but we're going to be okay," I promised, though my own heart was unsteady. There was a disconnect between the calm facade I presented and the tumult surging beneath. "Do you remember the stories we used to tell each other? About adventures and brave heroes?" I asked, hoping to capture her attention and distract her from the commotion brewing outside. She nodded, her large eyes shining with curiosity amidst worry. "Can we make one up right now?" "Yes. Right here, in this very place," I said, allowing the excitement in her voice to momentarily lift the weight of dread from my chest. "How about a princess who rescued a fallen star from a dark cave?" Her own face brightened as she began weaving an elaborate tale, the words pouring from her mouth with a fervor only a child could possess. As she enchanted me with her imaginative world, my mind drifted back to Victor, his confessions, his struggle, and the shadows that clung to his heart like stubborn mist. It was then that a sudden crash ricocheted from the corridor, and I startled, clutching Lily tightly as the chaos unfolded once more. A figure burst into the waiting area, nurse, disheveled and out of breath, urgency suffusing her features. "Is everyone all right in here?" she panted, glancing around as if trying to gauge the safety of our corner. "We need to keep everyone calm. Some staff members are—" She paused to catch her breath, dealing with an unexpected situation at the front of the hospital. "Where's Victor?" I asked instinctively, the words bursting from me as panic took hold and squeezed tightly. The nurse shook her head, her brow furrowed. "I don't know. Please, try to remain calm." Her attempt at reassurance only brewed new fears within me. Victor had stepped away into the unknown, a battlefield I couldn't follow him into. How could I trust that he would find his way back to us? Lily's infectious enthusiasm suddenly faltered, and she looked up at me, her innocence piercing through my fog of worry. "Will the princess save the star, right?" "Yes, of course," I stammered, forcing a smile despite the tightening in my chest. "But she needs helpwise companions who will remind her of her strength." In that moment, a glimmer of understanding came to me. Perhaps Lily's innocence could shine a light on Victor's shadows, perhaps we were meant to find light even in the darkest of times. "What if I began," the thought emerging gently, "what if together we could be the fetchers of lost hope for Victor? Every story needs heroes, and even the bravest needs companions." As Lily constructed the scene in her narrow world of imagination, I felt a warm swelling inside me. Even as fear lingered, hope, too, was present. It ignited a determination within me to remain grounded and to believe that light could radiate through Victor's pain. But then, a sudden jolt of energy swept through the waiting area. A resounding crash echoed this time, unmistakable and fierce. The lights flickered once more, and a voice, loud and commanding, rang out from the corridor. Everyone stay where you are. This area is now secured. I held my breath, the authority in that voice resonating like thunder. The tension in the air thickened as dread clutched at my throat, the possibilities of what lay ahead swirling into an impenetrable haze. My heart skipped wildly, turning frantically as I wondered what dangers Victor faced, and if he could transform the moments of chaos into something redemptive. A moment later, a figure stumbled into the light of the waiting area doctor, visibly shaken, his scrub stained and disheveled. Is anyone injured? We need to. What happened? I pressed, fear knitting tighter across my chest, and the room grew silent as everyone turned toward him. There's been an incident, we're handling it, but his eyes flitted nervously around the room, landing on me with an intensity that made my heart race. It involves someone close to Victor. You should prepare yourself for. Prepare for what? I gripped Lily against me, her soft form a grounding force amidst the growing chaos. Before the doctor could answer, a commotion erupted outside. A cacophony of voices mingled with the heavy footsteps of men and the chaos of shouts. The bristling energy broke the fragile illusion of safety, and dread wafted through my chest, and just as the weight of the unknown threatened to swallow me whole, a small hand slipped into mine. Lily, her small fingers wrapping around mine, steadying me even in the face of uncertainty. It was a simple gesture, yet it felt monumental in that moment, reinforcing the belief that even in the darkness, connection woven through love can illuminate the path forward. Will we save the princess? She asked softly, fear flickering at the edges of her voice. Yes, I promised, my resolve burgeoned by the innocence I tried to protect. We will, and we will save Victor too. But even as I spoke those words of strength and clarity, a heavy cloud settled over Muhat. If saving him meant uncovering parts of his past he had buried so deeply? What if his confrontation with that past sent shockwaves through all of our lives, altering the future I desperately hoped to build together? Then, without a moment of warning, the lights flickered once more and the entire hospital seemed to hold its breath. It was in that silence that I heard a sound of footsteps approaching, echoing through the corridor like haunting specters from a bygone era. And at that moment, the door to despair swung open, ready to unleash its secrets upon us, magnifying my fears and amplifying my heart's trepidation into a crescendo of unanswered questions. Would Victor confront the darkness? Would he emerge a hero of his own story, or would I stand alongside a broken man? Suddenly, all I could do was hold on tighter to the small, bright light beside me, hoping that together we could face whatever shock awaited us and begin our journey toward healing. The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered ominously as the weight of uncertainty settled deeper in my chest. The tension was palpable, wrapping around us like a heavy blanket. Lily's hand remained steadfast in mine, her small fingers gripping tightly as if trying to shield us both from whatever storm was brewing beyond our makeshift sanctuary. As I searched the room for any sign of Victor, my thoughts raced. Why had the doctor mentioned someone close to him? Was this incident a symptom of something darker from his past? My instincts screamed that I needed to protect Lily, but the overwhelming ache in my heart reminded me that I also had to protect Victor, the man who had given so much of himself, yet had kept so many pieces hidden. Mommy, Lily's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts, and I turned to her, seeing the worry etched across her innocent face. What if the princess really gets hurt? Her question held a weight that threatened to topple the fragile fortress I had built around my fears. I knelt down, bringing my eyes level with hers. The princess might face danger, but she's surrounded by friends who love her. They help each other, and that's what makes them strong. Lily pondered this for a moment, her brow furrowing as she processed the complexity of our situation. And what if one of them is too hurt to help? She asked quietly, her eyes darting towards the closed door, as if fearing a monster lay waiting on the other side. That I hesitated, feeling as if the answer was a secret too heavy to share with her. Then they lean on the others, and together they become braver. That's the beauty of friendship. Trying to breathe warmth into the chills settling around me, I cupped her face gently. We have each other, right? Right, she replied, her lips curling into a small smile, but the warmth in her gaze was still shadowed by uncertainty. I could see her thoughts racing, a swirl of childhood innocence mixed with worry far beyond her years. Just then, the door swung open forcefully, revealing a man in a crisp suit, his demeanor composed, but the sharp edge of fear lingered in his eyes. His presence commanded the room, and he scanned the crowd, finally locking onto me. "Are you with Victor Collins?" he demanded, his voice steady but urgent as he approached. "Yes," I replied, startled by the sudden weight of his inquiry. "Have you seen him?" He paused, taking a breath as if steeling himself for something monumental. "I'm a close friend of his. There's been an incident. He needs you, needs me." My voice trembled, a mix of hope and dread seeping through my veins. "What happened?" The man hesitated, guilt flickering in his expression. "It's about his past. Victor's been confronted by some people who won't let him go. We have to move quickly." Lily squeezed my hand tighter, sensing the shift in atmosphere as uncertainty unfolded like a storm before us. I looked back at the man, my mind racing with wild questions. "What do you mean? What kind of people? Is he hurt?" "It's complicated. I can't go into detail here," he said, frustration plain in his voice. "But if we don't act fast, we risk losing him." The urgency in his tone sent icy tendrils of fear snaking through my heart. "Lily, wait here," I whispered, but she shook her head fiercely. "No. I want to help the princess and Victor." Her resolve sliced through my carefully built facade, and I felt the boundaries between strength and vulnerability blur. "Mommy, what if I can bring him back too? Like how the princess got her friends to help?" A chill cascaded down my spine at the gravity of her words. Could a child's innocent belief in heroes guide us toward salvation? Its simplicity struck my heart with a fierce wave of hope. I knelt beside her, looking deep into her eyes, and slowly nodded. "Okay. Well, go together. But we have to be very careful." The man glanced around the room, his anxiety barely concealed. "We don't have much time. Follow me." Lily and I exchanged one last glance, this bond forged in unsteady moments. Together, we stepped into the unknown, leaving the fragmented world behind us. Each footstep echoed a silent prayer for Victor's safety and for answers that felt just beyond reach. The corridors were empty, and the further we moved away from the waiting area, the louder the distant chaos rose, reminder of the danger lurking just outside the edges of our fragile lives. "Where are we going?" I muttered to the man leading us, my heart racing. "To a secure exit," he replied briskly. But the depth of care in his voice hinted at more than just logistics. There was a pulse of urgency, a sense that this confrontation would shake the foundations of everything I thought I knew about Victor and the world he inhabited. Then he stopped abruptly, his body tensing as he listened to something beyond the voice of my heart thrumming in my ears. "Oh no," he murmured. "What is it?" I pressed, panic creeping back in, wrapping around me like ivy. Before he could respond, the unmistakable rush of footsteps echoed in the corridor, heavy and consuming, and I instinctively stepped in front of Lily, my body shielding hers from whatever confrontation awaited us. But when the figure emerged, it was not just Anyani, it was Victor. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but there was a hollow resolve in his eyes that pierced through the darkness, cutting straight to my heart. "Victor!" I gasped, relief flooding through me, but that relief was instantly chased away by the fierce urgency of what lay behind him. As he scanned the hallway, a shadow loomed behind him, fierce and unchecked, igniting a spark of fear, and then, I understood with chilling clarity, this encounter with his past was about to unfold. "Get her out of here," Victor instructed, his voice raw but resolute. "They're coming." "Who's coming?" I questioned, but as he took a step towards us with an expression that bespoke 1,000 unspoken words, I knew we stood at the precipice of revelation, an unraveling of Victor's life that neither of us were prepared for. The footsteps drew closer, a heartbeat away, and I realized in the dark shadows threatening us was not just fear, but a painful truth that once exposed could unravel the very fabric of our collective future. I tightened my grip on Lily and braced myself, knowing deep down that whatever storm lay ahead, we would confront it together. But doubt lingered like a veil, whispering sinister questions in the back of my mind. Would we emerge whole, or would we be forever changed? The air grew heavy as the footsteps drew nearer, each thud resonating in my chest like a warning bell. Victor's body language changed, his shoulders squared, and he shifted into a stance that suggested he was ready for a fight, yet part of me wondered if that fight was just as much with himself as it was with whatever shadows hunted him. Please, we need to go. The man in the suit urged, his eyes darting nervously between Victor and the approaching threat. Not without him, I said defiantly, tightening my hold on Lily. My heart pounded in my ears, a frantic reminder of the fragility of our situation. Victor needs us, don't you understand? Victor's voice cracked, and in that moment, the mask he wore shattered, exposing the vulnerability I had sensed in him from the beginning. You can't help me. You won't be safe. Before I could respond, the figures emerged from the shadows, 2 men, each wearing expressions that could shatter glass. They were formidable, the kind of people who thrived in the dark spaces of secrets and regret. Victor, one of them called out, his voice low and taunting, you really thought you could escape, huh? Running away to play house with your little family? The words hit like a physical blow, knocking the breath from my lungs as confusion and anger surged in my chest. I could feel Lily trembling beside me, and I knew I had to shield her not just from the danger that loomed, but from the truth that threatened to tear apart the world we had carefully stitched together. No! I shouted, desperation lacing my voice. Leave him alone. He's done nothing to you. In that instant, the tension peaked, the air thick with unbroken promises, the kind that often condemn relationships to a fate of untold heartache. Victor's gaze held mine for the briefest moment, a silent plea intermixed with dread. I saw the agony in his eyes, a mixture of love, regret, and perhaps fear of what drawing us into his troubled past would mean. The men stepped forward, their intentions clear. You don't know who you're dealing with, do you? The second man spoke, shifting his gaze toward Lily. This little girl has no idea what her father has been involved in. Stop. You don't know anything. Victor asserted, his voice ringing with a mix of anger and urgency. Stay away from her, but my heart sank. As much as I wanted to lash out, I knew deeper truths were buried beneath the surface, truths that would rip apart the last shreds of normalcy we clung to. I'm tired of running, Victor continued, as if coming to a realization. He stepped forward, creating a buffer between us and the encroaching danger. If you want me, you'll have to go through my family first. Family? One of the men sneered, stepping forward with a menacing grin. What a quaint little notion. Your family is nothing more than collateral damage in this game you've been playing. That I could feel cold tendrils of fear skittering down my spine, every instinct screaming for us to back away, to escape while we still could. But there was a strange warmth in Victor's resolve, something that began to anchor my swirling emotions as he faced his past. Mommy? Lily's frightened voice sliced through the tension. My heart twisted at the vulnerability pooling in her wide eyes, and I crouched beside her, trying to protect her from the tumult brewing just beyond our precarious bubble. I'm here, sweetheart. I whispered, holding her tightly. No matter what happens, I'm here. That I in that moment, amidst uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited within me, a spark of resilience ignited by the innocent faith of my daughter, who like the princess in her beloved stories, wanted to believe in the goodness of the world, even when shadows loomed close. Victor's eyes met mine, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw everything: sorrow, determination, a painful past woven with dreams that had once flickered brightly before the darkness swallowed them whole. My heart ached with the desire to reach him, to pull him back from that abyss, to show him that the love we had was worth the fight. But before I could voice my thoughts, the lead man lunged forward, and everything shifted. Victor moved swiftly, blocking my view as he threw himself in front of us. Get out of here! He yelled, the rawness of his command piercing through layers of fear. Lily clutched my hand tightly as screams erupted around us, chaos unfolding like a storm. But just as I prepared to retreat, another voice broke through, sharp and authoritative, imbued with an undeniable presence. Step back. A new figure appeared, clad in a uniform, holding a badge that gleamed ominously under the harsh lights. My breath caught in my throat, a mixture of dread and unexpected relief pooling within me. Police. The officer announced, standing firm, eyes narrowed at the men who faced Victor. You're surrounded. Come quietly, or we'll take you down. In that moment of chaos, Victor's gaze held mine just a second too long, an unspoken farewell, a shattered hope. The world around us faded, and suddenly, the shadows felt more consuming than ever, morphing into silhouettes of what was and what could be lost forever. As the men hesitated, and the sirens wailed in the distance, I felt a profound shift within me, the intensity of the moment sealed in my heart like a wound yet to heal. I had so many questions, but as I looked into Victor's weary eyes, I realized the greatest uncertainty lay not just in the battle we faced outside, but in the shadows of his past that had now tangled inexorably with my own. That moment of fragile stillness amidst the chaos, one thought echoed louder than the rest: we weren't just fighting for Victor's safety, we were struggling to safeguard the truth, whatever that truth might reveal. And as I watched his resolve waver, fear gripped my heart, whispering the bitter truth: I may have just plunged us deeper into a world of darkness we were ill-prepared to confront. The piercing sound of police sirens echoed through the corridor, a strange mix of foreboding and relief swirling in the air. Our world teetered on the edge of chaos, and I fought to keep my grip tight on Lily's hand, desperately wanting to shield her from the unfolding storm. Victor stood in front of us, poised between his past and the unknown future, like a soldier ready to face the enemy. "Victor," I whispered, fear flooding my voice. "Don't do this." His eyes shifted to me, a maelstrom of conflicting emotions swirling within. "I have to end this," he said, his voice low and steady, like the calm before a tempest. "This can't continue to haunt us, to affect you and Lily." Victor the first faltered, searching for the right words to anchor him, to pull him back from the precipice. "You don't have to bear this alone. We can face it together." "Together?" His gaze narrowed, haunted by the weight of the sins of his past. "You don't know what you're asking." Just then, the men moved with a predatory intent, their annoyance boiling over into impatience. "Enough of this. Once you're gone, we can finally be free of this charade." Victor stiffened, placing himself protectively in front of us. "You'll never get to them." The shadows loomed closer, the darkness of his past threatening to consume him just as surely as it threatened to engulf me. But I couldn't let that happen. "Stop!" I yelled, desperation rising to a crescendo in my chest. "This isn't just your fight, Victor. This is about us and the family we've created." His resolve wavered, just for a moment, as he absorbed my words. The flicker of uncertainty in his eyes felt like a spark amidst a raging fire. I took a step closer, treading into the tumultuous emotional landscape I had fought so hard to navigate. "You've carried this burden for too long. Let it go. Let me in." "Mommy, please." Lily chimed in, her voice bright and resolute against the menacing tone in the air. "Don't let them take him." My heart clenched at her courage. "See, Victor. We're here for you. We're not just going to abandon you to face your demons alone. You are not meant to be defined by your mistakes, but by how you face them." He looked down for the briefest second, and in that silence, I sensed the walls beginning to crack. The battle within him was palpable, a tumultuous storm that swirled behind the veneer of his normally composed exterior. "Enough." One of the men barked. "You think you can save him? These people are nothing but collateral." The venom in his voice sliced through the heaviness, igniting Victor's determination once more. But then, an unforeseen sound pierced through the chaos, a crackle over the PA system as the police officer bellowed, "This is your last warning. Stand down, or face consequences." The urgency hung thick in the air as Victor took a deep breath, shifting as if preparing for a fight, cheeks flushed with the weight of the past and of our shared future. "They'll never let me go," he murmured, a haunting truth that sent shivers down my spine. As the tension heightened, I could feel the desperation pushing me forward. "You can choose a different path. You can forge a new beginning." I cried, my words ringing louder now, resonating through the dark in his heart. Just when I thought the tide would swallow us all whole, Victor lifted his chin, his resolve strengthened by my insistence, and a flicker of something began to ignite within him, a light battling the shadows. With a sudden rush of clarity, he turned and spoke with a deliberate firmness that made my heart soar. "Whatever you think you can take from me, you don't know me. I've faced hell, and yet here I stand, not alone. The men hesitated, confusion lacing their expressions at the sudden shift in Victor's demeanor. I sensed the trembling hope rising between us, a validation of his true strength wrestling against the ghosts in his past. Then, it happened. The officer from earlier stepped forward, flanking Victor as he continued, "I'm not interested in running or hiding anymore. I choose to stand my ground, not just for me, but for those I love." In that stunning moment, I saw a transformation blossom in him, and I felt it in my own heart, a surge of solidarity that breathed life into our fragile connection. Whatever darkness had once distinguished Victor's path felt like it was losing its grip, clawing against the light that now sought to rise in its stead. The men exchanged shadow-filled glances before one of them lunged forward, but the officer reacted instantly, his authority unwavering as he stepped between them and Victor. "I suggest you reconsider your next move," he said, his voice stern and unwavering, sending the men into an uncertain retreat. In the surge of movement, Victor's gaze locked onto mine, as raw emotion passed between us, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling and shifting. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper but steeped in urgency. That I nodded, feeling the strength of my love for him wrap around me like armor. If this was the moment that defined our journey, the one that transformed fleeting shadows into vibrant colors, then I would face it head-on. "Always," I whispered, squeezing Lily's hand tighter, knowing we were bound together by a strength that transcended fear. Suddenly, a cacophony of voices erupted behind us. Reinforcements had come, the ding of badges announcing a swell of support as police surrounded the fighting trio, leaving us enveloped in a fragile cocoon of safety. I felt Victor exhale, a sigh of relief mixed with lingering doubt, as the reality of what had only moments ago seemed inevitable began to shift. "Victor," I breathed, drawing closer as the chaos simmered. "Every story needs to be shared. Every fear must be faced, but right now, we have fought hard to shield ourselves from the darkness. Let's finally allow the light in." He turned to me, and for the first time, I witnessed the burdens he had carried begin to lift. This was not just a battle with his past, but an awakening amid the furnace of pain. As my heart swelled with hope, the shadows that threatened us faded, and Victor reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers as we stood side by side. That in that pivotal moment, surrounded by the looming authority, the chaos began to subside, leaving a palpable sense of relief settling within us. And just like that, I realized we had faced our shadows together, not as a singular entity lost and overwhelmed, but united in a love that had grown stronger through conflict, with a powerful resolution beginning to blossom on the fragile horizon. I knew we had braved the storm. Together, we would forge a path not defined solely by our pasts, but a future woven with threads of resilience, acceptance, and love. And when Victor turned to me, his expression softened. He whispered, "I choose the light." In that instant, my heart soared, knowing that sometimes the greatest magic is found in the most unexpected places, a delicate balance between shadow and light, a story worth telling, a love worth fighting for. "Together," I echoed, and as those two simple words lingered in the air, it felt as if we had stepped beyond the storm, arriving at a new dawn. As the weight of the past lifted, clarity came rushing in. The world stood still for the briefest moment, and the sun broke through the clouds in a breathtaking cascade of golden light, a promise of hope that bathed us all, whispering that healing begins the moment one dares to believe in the beauty of their own story. And in that beautiful moment, I held Lily close, while Victor and I shared a glance filled with unyielding conviction, knowing the journey ahead was ours to embrace together. Love had indeed swept through the darkness, offering us solace, strength, and an unbreakable bond, a reminder that no matter how fierce the storms of life may roar, we are forever changed by the moments we dare to face our truths. In that silence, the world blossomed anew, and with one final look towards our sunlit future, I whispered softly, "We're home."